Approach, staying close to the Tao, staying close to nature, we have many, many different lineages that are combined under this approach. Working more with the acupuncture, working more with the herbs like I do, within the herbs, working more with cooling herbs, that would be called the fever school, working more with warming herbs, that would be called the fire spirit school, which I personally have contact to through some of my teachers. That is then secondary. So it is classical that we all have this love for nature and natural things and the belief that nature can cure and the body as a part of nature can become whole again without technological or pharmaceutical intervention, even in the case of more serious types of diseases. But then underneath that, there are many roads lead to Rome and many different methodologies. And that is what the classical Chinese medicine program at NUNM combines, is teachers who were trained in the classical way in a variety of different lineages, some of them herbal, some of them acupuncture, and some of them movement and meditation oriented.
But who was a leading herbalist at the Chengdu College of TCM in Sichuan province. He studied with Dr. Zeng Rongxiu, who was more of a family lineage practitioner, incredible herbalist. He studied with Shifu Wang. He studied with many different people. So he has multiple lineages, as do all the faculty who are here. And they bring that commitment and dedication and understanding of the value of lineage practice to their students. So the atmosphere here is one of care and concern for the students. It's not, okay, come into the classroom and I'm going to give you all these rote things. It's, hey, join this program where we're a community that honors diversity, that honors diverse perspectives, diverse approaches, but with an understanding that the diversity actually honors the unity. And so my experience of being the dean of this program for 15 years is that it was a deep honor to be with the students who are drawn to this perspective and this understanding, and the faculty. Really exceptional. Yeah, one of the systems that I've encountered, again, through Heiner Fruehauf, he, through Dr. Liu Lihong in China, made a connection with this incredible system that comes from northern China that was actually, has ancient roots. It's based in Confucian philosophy and ancient, classical Chinese medicine, really. But there's a man, Wang Fengyi, who lived, he was born into a poor family in northern China in Heilongjiang province in the late 1800s, and mostly in the 1920s and 30s. He became someone, he had his own experience of growing up as a boy in a Confucian culture where he held, in a really unusual way, the most important of the Confucian values, which is Xiao. Xiao is the transliteration. Xiao, which is filial piety. It's about having reverence and care and love for the parents and elders. And he naturally had that in a way that he was really well known, well regarded in his family, in his village, and even eventually in the whole region, as this person who was really exemplary. And despite that, when he was in his 20s, he became critically ill, and he had this abdominal abscess, right? So this big festering abscess that was open, and nothing treated it for more than a decade, until in some way, and I don't know exactly how, he came to the understanding or the realization that while he held this incredible quality of Xiao, he was really judgmental and perhaps even angry at those who didn't. And that it was his holding on to this negative emotion toward other people and projecting it onto him that actually was at the root of his own disease. And when he took responsibility for having that negative projection onto others and holding this emotion, and when he released it, it's said that his ulcer went away overnight. And he kept doing the work and developed this understanding. His father died, and he did the traditional Confucian practice of staying for a really extended period in a burial hut near his father's grave. And he had this deep understanding, this download of understanding how disease is held in the body based in which kind of emotion we're holding. And he understood that in a 5-element way, 5-phase element, from one of the major ways of diagnosing in Chinese medicine. And he developed this whole brilliant system. He never learned how to read and write, but he developed this whole understanding that he taught to many people, and he thought, he understood that the women, the mother in the family was the main educator. So he knew that it was very important to educate the girls, which was not common in that part of China in those days. And he established over 700 schools for girls in northern China that still exist today. And that system became a major way. People across that region were poor, and it was a way that they could actually heal fully from really serious disease, including cancer, including, things that otherwise they would have died from pretty quickly. He would transmit, again this word transmission, he would transmit his understanding of how disease was held in the body and the basis of where people were holding these faulty patterns of meaning, or rather than saying faulty, I'd rather say it as limited patterns of meaning, and holding this emotion inside that when they could connect to the root of it and just simply allow it to move and open, if they were hating somebody, if they could connect with the hatred and let it move and let it release and open, their disease would go away. And it's a system of healing that's profound, that's, it takes work on the part of us as individuals. It's an ongoing process, but it's amazing. I mean, it's really amazing. And it's not currently, to my understanding, a form of medicine that's allowed to be practiced in mainland China these days. But my good friend, who is a classmate of mine, Tamara Stout, Heiner's created the opportunity, along with Dr. Liu Lihong and Abbot Mingchan in China, for a group of people to come from around the world to do a retreat with a student of Wang Fengyi's, a man named Liu Yousheng, who had a very similar life story to Wang Fengyi's in terms of his own healing. He ran a retreat in 2012 that we went to at the Jiashan Monastery in Hunan Province. And since that time, Tamara and then I've joined her in that effort. Every year we've been able to, which didn't include the years of the pandemic, we've run a retreat in the United States where people come and go through this process. It's a system called Shan Ren Dao, the path of the virtuous person or good person. It's a way to support people with no other modality than their own receiving the transmission of these teachings that come from Wang Fengyi, to do introspection and reflection and be supported to connect with the places where they're holding their own pattern of meaning and limitation and sort of suppressed, if you will, or held emotion, to connect with that and let it move and let themselves open to the deeper heart understanding of what's actually true. And in that process, to release toxins, to release old patterns of meaning, and in that process, symptoms of disease also unwind and disappear, go away.
The reason, with many different lineages, and what I was going to say is the reason why we have that is to recognize that variety and the capacity of what we just call the umbrella term, the medicine, to provide all of these opportunities and all of these varieties to help people. It is, as old as it is, it's going to have that level of variety that really no other medical paradigm has.
My teacher, Dr. Leon Hammer, studied with his teacher, Dr. John Shen. Dr. John Shen studied with the Ding family. The Ding family hails from the Menghe region, and so our current is known as the Menghe Ding current. And I inherited that directly from Dr. Hammer through study and mentorship. And Dr. Hammer has a unique position in the transmission of Chinese medicine to the West because he brought his career as a psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, early pioneer of somatic psychology and medical doctor into his connection to Chinese medicine, which he achieved through a personal connection with his teacher, Dr. Shen. But what he discovered in that was a robust psychosomatic medicine that really excelled anything that was available, which through his exhaustive decades of study of Western psychology and psychiatry had exposed him to all of the currents within the Western conventional medicine, including psychiatry, psychoanalysis, and psychology. And he found the fulfillment of his dream, which he stated was a dream he had cherished from the time he was 4 years old, to become a doctor, to become a physician. He found that dream answered through Chinese medicine. And something within his evolution, the evolution of his being, which brought him through a current from a Western scientific perspective into contact with a vibrant East Asian philosophical and medical tradition, wherein medicine is understood as applied philosophy, and applied philosophy is understood as the study of change, and thus medicine itself is the study of change. And that change and transformation is the potential for metanoia in individuals. It's the potential for the very evolution of consciousness within a kind of intensification. And he perceived that, and he faithfully passed that on through the same intensifying model of the pulse system that he learned from his teacher, and that was the principal and beginning area of my study with him. And that's known as the Shen-Hammer pulse system. Within all of those currents, within all of those influences, the depth, the core of my philosophy is to recognize and to promote and to enact Chinese medicine as a subtle, powerful, profound, and robust psychosomatic medicine that lies at the very roots, in fact, lies at the very roots of some of the presently emerging models of somatic psychology, and bringing Chinese medicine, as it were, to the table of the conventional medical system, and recognizing that so many of the pressing issues of our time, some of the most disabling conditions of our time, are the perfect. Chinese medicine represents a perfect approach to addressing those problems. And as I said, bringing Chinese medicine, bringing in fact the deepest depths of the classical medicine the classical medicine, which is focused on an almost phenomenological inquiry into life, and perceiving medicine as a deeply salutogenic, life-nourishing, life-connecting, and human and more than human connecting vehicle. And to enact that, to find ways to bring that into contact with the most othered people in our societies, in our cities, in our nation, is the core of my mission.
So when I first moved to Portland, Oregon, I knew that I wanted to go into healing, but I didn't know what direction. And so I nannied when I first moved here, and I ended up nannying for a family where their children were in a Waldorf school. And so through that I was introduced to anthroposophy, and I was a Waldorf kindergarten teacher for a while. And so part of our teacher training is to engage in anthroposophy and Goethe ways of studying the world, from botany to inner growth. And it was this really beautiful experience of literally going back to kindergarten to relearn the world. And so as I was thinking about this world that I was introduced to of energy and constitutions, right? Like we talk a lot about that in Chinese medicine, but I was originally introduced to that through Rudolf Steiner's work in anthroposophy. So we have choleric children, we have sanguine children, they're up on their tiptoes and they're really light and airy beings. We have the phlegmatics, which tend to be heavier and slower, but they're always on time and super helpful. And then the melancholic folks who will tell you all their problems, a little bit like Eeyore. And so I already started this lens of like watching people's constitutions, is what we call it in Chinese medicine. And it was just this beautiful way of understanding people on a more soul, spiritual, and body way, that I was sad to lose that if I went into traditional medicine. And for a long time I thought, like, what was that weird little stint I did in Waldorf education? And then when I came to NUNM, it all clicked. It was like, oh, I was actually training to come in and be taught by these teachers, to understand the gesture of a human being, to listen to their voice, to look at their face, to watch the way they walk, and to understand the content of what their heart would speak. And then we can use that in Chinese medicine diagnosis to really shift our patients. And one of the things, being a woman and a queer woman, is again kind of going back to that invisible trash can. You know, we know that if we have a breakup, that affects your sleep, it affects your appetite, you're emotionally distressed, and other than giving antidepressants or exercise, there's not a lot that is recommended. But in Chinese medicine, we really treat the heart. And in Rudolf Steiner, in anthroposophy, we would talk about the soul, nurturing the soul. And so to me, the two worlds collided, and it was like things just clicked into place, and it was like coming home. I've always been a plant person, and that was one of the things that I thought I was going to be really drawn to, was the herbal side of our medicine. Being in the garden here at NUNM, I see skullcap and mint, which is boha, and we have horsetail and oregano and plantain, all of these beautiful healing plants. But one of the things that was cultivated in me and through my experience at NUNM is the self-cultivation process. And for me, plants have a language. They don't just grow and we crush them and use them as medicine. They are expressionate beings who, as much as we want to experience them, they want to experience us. So I feel like plants talk, and if you are tuned into their language, they will tell you a lot of things about them. Some of the exercises that I teach the students were passed down to me from some of my teachers, like Brenda Hood, who would actually have us go out and feel the energy of each plant and feel where the plant began and where it was really tight, the energy. And you can feel the energy spin on certain plants. You can feel them go really deep or come up and explode. Like mimosa is like a little burst of joy. It goes shing and it treats depression. Trying to think of other herbs that are super exciting to me. Oh, this one. This one is Artemisia vulgaris, and it grows in our garden here. It grows in the Pacific Northwest and in California. This is known as Artemisia, and in Chinese medicine we use this plant. It's called Aiye, and we grind it into moxa floss. So this is what your acupuncturist will burn on your acupuncture points. And our school is big on lineages, and I have a few moxa teachers such as Lorraine Wilcox and Bob Quinn, who took the time to sit with us for hours and teach us how to do moxa, how to do it properly without burning people. And then for my teacher Lorraine, studying with her about the proper time to harvest moxa, and to then process it, age it, and then process it. So it is picked either the 3rd day of the 3rd lunar month or the 5th day of the 5th lunar month, which this year is June 22nd. And myself and a bunch of students will come and harvest this plant. And if you look closely at the leaves, you can see the moxa fluff, the fuzz on the bottom side of the plant. And I have a bunch of it on my pants right now because I walked through it. This will be aged for a year when it's harvested on that day, and then we will take the moxa harvest that we harvested last year and we'll grind it and separate it from the moxa floss in order to make charged moxa. The older moxa ages, the stronger it gets, and it's best used in increments of yang numbers, such as 5, 7, and 9. And so, yeah, there's just a lot that I could say about moxa. Many of my students joke that I'm the moxa queen, but that title goes to my mentor, Lorraine Wilcox. I say that I'm the moxa duchess. And moxa is used to tonify people who are deficient. We use it to help with fertility patients. Some of our patients that are too weak to handle needling will use that in lieu of needling. It's also used on the holiday, so the 5th day of the 5th lunar month is called Duan Wu, which is a big dragon boat festival. And on this day, you harvest it and hang little bundles of it everywhere, and it keeps away the evil spirits. It's a joke that the reason I burn so much of it in clinic is because we're really keeping away all the evil spirits. But it tonifies qi, and if you burn it on certain points, it tonifies blood, and it's soothing. It can be really anchoring and sedate the shen, like calming to people, and it's one of my favorite tools to use in clinic.
Yeah.
We have our lineage is the art itself.
Yeah.
So we don't follow just one school.
Okay.
We always question where that one school came from. What happened before that school exists? Even in Taiji Chuan, where's that school came from? Is there other school better than them? Or equivalent? So where's the lineage?
Yeah.
The lineage is the art itself. Like you ask some musicians, right? Are you studying Mozart or Beethoven? You are not. We are studying music.
Right.
Right? Different nature have different character that shape their style. But the art is still there. So the whole thing is when you start as a student, you have to learn do, re, mi. Otherwise, you don't know music. Even you are the genius. You may in tune with it a lot faster, but still need to be trained. Even genius like Mozart, he have to be trained. Otherwise, he can shape to develop, right? And the knowledge is from the past generations that pile up for thousands of years. All you need is one generation, whole thing is gone. Okay, so we are inherit something in the past. So we don't limit ourselves in just one school. It's always limited. Right? Like today, the MD, they limited to what medicine? They haven't combined with the East yet. They haven't combined with the native. They haven't combined with the Amazon. They haven't combined with the Indian one. So where the medicine heading to? They're so limited. So while I'm teaching what is Taiji means the yin and yang become one. That's a big spectrum of understanding. So it's not limited in doing this form and that form. You thought you know the art. Like you can learn 100 songs, right? But every key, every note is out of. So you are not doing things. You are just having fun, imitating. You are not a practitioner. You are just an imitator. So would you able to and humble enough to start learning what do, re, mi sounds like? Every little note, every little key. Until you grow into it, then we may be talking about what are the yin and yang can become one. Or from Taiji, that's the concept, not the school we are talking about. One school used that name. They thought they are legit in Taiji. No, many schools are doing the yin-yang thing, have different name, different terminologies, different interpretation. Everybody have their own route. Some people like to walk. If you can walk well, fine. If you have a skateboard, skateboard it. You still get to the same destination. It depends what is your potential and what tool you have. Okay? So that's the whole spectrum of the art. It's not limited by one school. So where's the lineage? The art itself.
Okay.
Another thing, the key is the school that existing today.
Yeah.
Do they have the whole curriculum
Uh-huh.
and the ingredient, all the elements that they should have? Or how much they can inherit from the past? That's why we put our mind open. We don't study just one.
Mm-hmm.
Like philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
You can limit yourself in one philosophy.
Yeah.
From one philosopher, then you're stuck. Your mind will be so narrow. But in order to capture all the discipline from the past, and then you see the origin, where it came from, how it evolved and developed into so many different styles. And what are their difference? And what are their similarity? What are the merging points? That we call the study of 全学. And they have two big parts. One is for cultivation and life nurturing. That's a must. And then you talk about the martial element. If you are not healthy and strong, mentally, physically, you don't do martial art. So all the prep work to be healthy first. Cultivate yourself in any medicine. You can talk about metabolism, you can talk about circulation and how deep your breath is. So there's certain disciplines are very merging in certain things. But what is the whole picture? To refine it to a higher level of understanding. Okay? So when people limited yourself in one lineage, you ask yourself, have you graduated from that lineage? Do you have time to explore other people's discipline and lineage and enable you? Like doing research, broaden up your spectrum from one lineage to another, to another, to another. Maybe you would encounter enough knowledge, you would see where the origin came from. Because when master pass on the lineage, they usually limited to their own thing. So most people can't even graduate from one lineage. So you are stuck in there. So what if those who are diligently practicing and able to graduate from your own lineage, where are you heading to? You have to explore. Same as medical people. After you got your MD, Are you going to explore some other medicine? Same in Chinese medicine. Have you explored the Indian one or the Amazon medicine man or whatever on the planet? Even for CCM training, you can still benefit something from the allopathic or the naturopathic. So that's what I hope. One day all the medicine would merge globally.
My primary interest, again, was in how we can look at the human being as not just a collection of cells or parts that we put together, but what are the organizing wholes? For example, the organ networks that keep us healthy. How does what we call the soul or our higher self play into these aspects, into our physiology? And then how do our higher guiding thoughts, our beliefs, fit in with that as well? So, these questions were something I always sort of had pondered. And in the process of exploring that in more detail, both as a student and later as a professor, I stumbled across the work of Rudolf Steiner in Anthroposophy. And Steiner is one who addresses some of these ideas, arguing that a lot of our sciences, our medicine, is based in what we might call physicalism or materialism. We believe the human being is just cells, and that these cells essentially generate consciousness and our higher aspects of self. And that's where a lot of current academia and whatnot resides. But Steiner, and my own interest as well, has been looking at, how is there something overarching the cells? Are there organizing fields, or are there fields of consciousness that actually are primary and that matter is in some way secondary to that? And can we understand and know those higher fields by exploring matter in depth, by using matter as a symbol or as a sign to look at those higher processes? And so that led me down the track of anthroposophic medicine, which I won't talk about too much here. But essentially, this has helped inspire my own unique approach to medicine.